got my mic. Just put it on. Nice to see you all. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Katrina. Karen, Paula. Let me see who else is there. When I go to the Gompa, I don't see many people there. I have this image that is not moving. So to me, it looks like only Judy and John are standing in the back of the Gompa, and I'm sure that's not true. Anyway, I hope that's going to change, that I can see later. Hi, Liz. Good morning. So we are having a weekend, and I see that my glasses are very much reflecting. Wait, what shall I do? Not sure. We have a weekend on the Tutfuth, and the Tutfuth, they are really talking about the nature of reality on both conventional and ultimate level. And so in order to remove any obstacles that we might have in terms of our self-grasping mind that we are so used to, I thought maybe it's good if we start this weekend and maybe also tomorrow morning with reading the Heart Sutra. And I did send it to John, and I hope that you all receive that and that we can read that together. And after that, we will take refuge. And we can do one time in Tibetan and then 2 times in English. All right. So maybe first sit a few minutes with your eyes closed. In order to focus the mind, in order to become present. So you have chosen to be here, and this is a time where you can totally let go of anything that keeps you busy in samsara, in a normal life. Whether these are things that have happened in the past or things that are still coming in the future. All that is of non-important at this moment. The only thing that is important is that you are here, that your mind is clear, that your mind is focused. And then we read the Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on Master Vulture's mountain Vajrayana, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice and the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not sufficient, not without, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and power. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment and reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan rose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of the gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. And the line face the kini. I prostrate to the gathering of the kinis in the three chakras, who abide in the holy yoga of using space, by the powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Akasamarat Satsadara Samaraya Pe Akasamarat. Akasamarat Satsadara Samaraya Pe Tayata Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Soham. By the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. Shintin Kuriya Soha. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. And may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here right now. And then we can adjust the motivation by thinking that we are here today participating in the teachings on the two truths, not just to develop our own minds, to develop our own wisdom, to develop our own compassion, but so that this can become a cause for us to develop our full potential for wisdom and compassion, because only then be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings. And we can do that once in Tibetan and twice in English. Sangye chedan sangye chonam la chancha badu dani kyapsuchi nage jinsangi pe sonamgi nrola penchia sangye drupashu. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. But prayers for practicing giving and the other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits from practicing giving and the other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Good morning, everyone. This is going to be, oh, I have this huge glare in my eyes. This is going to be an interesting weekend, I hope, for all of you. Before I start really with the teachings, I was wondering if I'm just thinking this is quite a difficult topic, and I would like to know how many people have no knowledge in any way of Buddhism. And so I don't know, on the Zoom bar down at the bottom of your screen, there is one that says reactions. And maybe if you have already knowledge about Buddhism, you can put your thumbs up. Liz, fantastic. Victoria, great. Paula, Katrina, you also have knowledge. Anita has some knowledge, great. Is there somebody who has absolutely no knowledge? Never heard anything about Buddhism. This is your first course ever. So there is also an icon that says chat. So you can type in the message there. If you cannot show thumbs up or anything else, you can type a message and say no experience in Buddhism at all. So everyone has a little bit. That's good. So this is not an easy topic. And I would like you to really try to understand and follow, because sometimes it can be you miss something and then you lose it. You know, you cannot follow anymore. I try to come back to certain topics again and again, but it is really good if you start losing it, that you let me know. Put in a message and say, can you repeat that? Try to say what I need to repeat. Because I really would like you to get most out of these teachings today. All right. Let's see, that is what is in my eye. It's my iPad. Why do I want to do that? Not sure. I'm gonna. So you have me with the glasses with the iPad reflecting, or you have me looking down all the time. Not sure what is worse. Let's try it like this. Maybe when there's going to be more light, you have less reflection. So please ask questions. Never think that what you're asking is stupid. Never think that, oh, I know nothing. So I know that when you know very little, it's more difficult to ask questions because you do not even have the framework in which to think so that you can ask questions. But even then, just try to say whatever you don't get. Okay, I really would like you to get most out of these teachings today. So what are we going to do in this weekend? I'll give you a little bit overview of what I would like to talk about in this weekend. So I would like to say a little bit about the importance of the two truths within Buddhist teachings. And then with that, maybe clarify some of the terms that we are using. And the two truths, what it is actually is about how do things exist? Because we hear many times in Buddhist teachings, things do not exist in the way they appear. Things are not really true, you know? So then what is true and what is not true? And what does exist? And what does exist really? And what does not exist really? And so in order to understand that, we have to understand what is that conventional truth? What is the ultimate truth? When do we realize conventional truth? When do we realize the ultimate truth? And how does that look when we are traveling on the path to enlightenment? And then we can look into how they relate with each other, ultimate truth and conventional truth. How they relate with each other, how they, and then with respect to one object. So if we look into all the objects that exist, all the objects of knowledge, how are the two truths, how is the division of the two truths in relation to all the objects of knowledge? And then tomorrow we're going to talk about, and part of this will be already tomorrow, but also about all the conventionalities in the world, because there are some things in the world that are true for us, and there are some things that we know that are not true, and then there are some things that we believe in that they are true, but they are not true, and there are things that we believe in they are true. So how do we distinguish between that? What kind of tools do we have in Buddhism to get better understanding about what is real, what is not real? When I think about something, how do I know that I come to a real conclusion or not? A good conclusion that is based on reality or not? And there were some questions about perceptual mind, conceptual mind, conventional mind. So I hope they will all be answered during the teachings today. All right, that's a little bit what I would like to cover. So if you are new, you might already have something like, oh my God, all these terms, you know. So I'll go slowly in explaining each of them. So first of all, the two truths. The two truths, what are the two truths? The two truths are the ultimate truth and the conventional truth. The ultimate truth is that which exists really, which is true, which is seen by great meditators who realize the nature of reality. The ultimate truth is the ultimate nature of reality. The conventional truth is our truth, what we see, what our world, what we see with our senses, what we think about, what is established in this world as being true. All that is conventional truth. So everything that we perceive with our sense organs, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we taste, what we smell. All that is conventional truth. And then how I think about it, how I label it. You know, if I see something, if I see the color blue, then my mind says that it's blue. That is blue with a thought. That thought is also conventional reality. So everything related to the world, everything that is impermanent, that is arising and then abiding for a while and then ceasing, all that is conventional truth. And then so that is also all the thoughts that arise in my mind, all the emotions that arise in the mind. That is also conventional reality, conventional truth. So I think when I answered Anita's question about is all conventional reality, is all conceptual, what was it, the conceptual mind, is that conventional reality? Yes, conceptual mind is conventional reality, but conventional reality is more. It is also the direct perception that we have of the world. So that was little correction on that. So these two truths, we need to know how they relate with each other. So in general, we can see the conventional truth is how things also appear to us. And then if we think about how things appear to us as all having an independent, autonomous entity, as if things exist independent upon anything else. And you can think about yourself when we talk about this. You can think about sometimes the car, your car is a really good example. There is this feeling that car has its own life, you know, my car. We communicate with our car. Our car is serving us as if there is an entity in that car doing something. As if there is an entity in the car that has nothing to do with all the parts of the car. Because I can have problems with my car and I can get new tires and I can get a new window and I get new brakes and I can replace each and every aspect of my car, every part of my car, but it's still the same car. As if there is something in that is different from the parts. And if that entity is never changing, even when the car gets older, you know, inside us, it's when we think about the car, it's still the same car. In our mind, that car doesn't change. An independent entity. Same with ourselves. You know, we have the feeling there is this independent entity. So this is the how things appear to us. And then how things exist in actuality. What is the ultimate truth? Is that nothing exists within that object that is independent, that is autonomous, that is objective, that is never changing. That doesn't exist in actuality. That is the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth of the car is that it lacks that independent, autonomous entity that we think it has. So understanding exactly what these true truths are in relation to one object, and then how the ultimate truth, the ultimate reality, and the conventional reality of an object relate to each other is very important to know. Because from that self-grasping, that belief that we have at the moment in reality, that things exist the way they appear to us, From there, all the delusions arise, all the problems arise. So the more understanding we have about this topic, the less delusions will be in the mind, the more clear the mind will be, the better we can see reality as it is. And when we can see reality as it is, we do not have unrealistic expectations from reality. We know things can happen. We know that things are not coming out of nowhere. So we talk about two truths, we talk about four truths. How are they related to each other? So the Four Noble Truths are, that was the first teaching of the Buddha, in which the Buddha talked about that everything is in the nature of suffering, and that there is a cause for suffering, and that there is a way out of suffering. So these three truths, which is the first, the second, and the fourth truth, they are all part of conventional reality. And then he talks about the truth of cessation, which is talking about the ultimate nature of reality. So the third truth is related to the ultimate nature of reality. And the other three truths are related to conventional nature of reality. Let me have a look. So the reason why we study this is because we all want to be happy. We all want to be free of suffering. And the reason why we are suffering is because we cannot see the nature of reality. As ordinary beings, our mind is covered with a veil of ignorance. Sometimes in the text it is compared to having cataracts. You know, you have cataracts that you cannot see anymore. Or you see what you see less, and you see it in a distorted way, but you can't see sharp, you can't see clearly, you can't see exactly what is there. So like that, our mind is covered with the cataracts of ignorance. And the ignorance that we have is our belief in that things exist in the way they appear to us. So if we gonna study that, we need to think about how do things appear to us and how do they exist in actuality. And the main topic on what we want to look at is the self. How do I exist and how do I appear to exist? And what is the difference between them? And so all schools, whether that is in Tibetan Buddhism or in Hinduism, they say that the root of all our suffering, of not being able to see reality as it is, it's that self-grasping, holding oneself to exist in a certain way that it doesn't exist in actuality. So we are talking at the moment about the view, about the wisdom aspect. And so there is a lot of philosophical debate between students, disciples, but also between yogis. Because people, they study and they go in meditation and they come out of meditation and they say, this is what I have discovered. And then they start debating that this is what exists and this is what doesn't exist. And so in Buddhism, there is a lot of different types of schools that represent certain tenets that all something different. I don't know if you have heard of that, the 4 tenet schools. So there are 2, I'll say a little bit about that, but not too much, because in this weekend, I just want to talk about the view that is presented, or the tenets as presented by the Prasangika school, which is the most subtle or the most profound view within Tibetan Buddhism. So I'll give you how it is and not the building up to it. But we have these 4 schools in Buddhism because, you know, we have all levels of understanding, and our mind is quite coarse. And so these 4 schools in Buddhism, they actually represent our own mind and our own understanding in the mind. And by going through the presentations of all 4 schools, you actually you go through layers of your own mind, of your own conceptual understanding of things. And so it is important. So today I'm just going to talk about the Prasangika, but if you want to study deeper, it is important to familiarize with the points and the positions of all the 4 schools, because they're all related somehow to our own delusions, to our own obscurations. And so by thinking about them, we get more insight into our own mind. The Hindu schools, they also have presentations of tenets. And so the Hindu schools, they thought like this, you know, they were meditating. And what you do when you meditate, you look, where is my I? Where is the self? The self that I feel that is appearing so clearly, especially when my mind is disturbed and I'm emotional. Where is that self? How does it exist? So the Hindus, the Hindu yogis, they look inside and they cannot find the self. And they say there is no self there. But there must be a self because I feel a self. I know there is a self. So what they do is they say the self is not in here, but the self is outside you. The self is the Atman. The self is, or the higher self. You know, this is not my real self, but my higher self is the real self. So they say there is a self somewhere outside us. So Buddhism refutes that self on different reasons, on the basis of different reasons, and then says, no, there is a self which is together with the body and mind. The self is not separate from the body and the mind. Then how does that self exist? You know, so the self that the Buddhism refutes is what we call the permanent, unitary, independent self. And that was the self that is posited by the Hindus, the Atman. That self is permanent, unitary, and independent. That self is ultimately existent. So in Buddhism, nothing like that can exist ultimately. You know, a self cannot exist as a permanent, unitary thing. It's impossible. And it cannot exist separate from the body and the mind. So then in Buddhism, we have another self, which is the self-sufficient, substantially existent self. That is the self that appears, the self that is in control over my aggregates, the self that is in control over the body and the mind, the self that makes the decisions. You know, today I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That is the self. It appears like there is substance almost in the body, right? When the self arises strongly, it feels like there is something in there, like a substance. The substantially existent self appears to us. And that substantially existent self seems to be in control, seems to tell us what we need to do. So this self is refuted by all Buddhist schools. They say there is no substance that we can find in the body and the mind, which we can say that is the self. And then we can go to a more, so all the Buddhist schools say that self doesn't exist. But some schools say the self does exist and is inherently existent. So they posit the self in different ways. And then if we look into the most subtle school, the Prasangika school, they say the self does not exist inherently. The self does not exist truly. The self does not exist from its own side. The self does not exist by way of its own character. So they refute all the selves posited by the lower 10 schools in Buddhism. And they said the self does not exist at all in any of these ways. The only way how the self exists is by merely imputed independence upon the five agonists. By being merely imputed independence on the body and the mind. So that's self. We believe that the self is more than being merely imputed in the mind. That is the root of all our suffering. Merely imputed is extremely subtle. It's almost like there is nothing there. It's almost like it doesn't exist. It is merely imputed by the mind. Merely imputed by the mind is for lower schools in Buddhism saying it doesn't exist at all. So they say, no, if you say merely imputed means you made it up by your mind, but there is nothing there. So that's impossible. There is something, exists something must exist inherently or truly, because how else could we perceive what we are perceiving? How else could we exist the way we are existing? So understanding the true truth from this perspective, we have to see what is it that we are adding to the self, which is not there in actuality. And when we start taking that off, it is almost like we're going to slide into, oh, there is nothing there. And finding that middle where we can say, this we have to take off, and this little bit is still there. And keeping that balance, finding that middle way where you do not add something to existence which does not exist, which is like a fantasy, but where you also do not throw away things that are existing in actuality. That is talking about finding the middle way. Do you understand that? Please tell me no, and we'll repeat. Great. Could you please repeat? So we always say things do not exist in the way they appear. We reify objects. We reify objects. We add something to how we exist and how all objects exist. So the way things appear to us, things appear as more permanent, more independent than they exist in actuality. And so if we want to find the truth, we have to know what we have been adding to an object which in actuality doesn't exist. And when we know what we're adding to that object, we have to take that off and say that is actually doesn't exist. In actuality, the object exists like that. But we have to be sure that we take off everything that we added so that we do not leave anything behind. But we also have to make sure that we don't take off too much so that we have what is left is not enough, So if I leave something that I have added with my mind, which doesn't exist in actuality, things become more permanent than they exist in actuality. And this is what all Buddhist schools do, according to the Prasangika school. Then what all schools do, they say if this is what exists, and this is what we add to it, this between my hands, So the Buddhist schools, they say, oh, we have added this much, so we have to take this away, so that this is left. And then Prasangika says, no, you have added this much, you have to take all this away. So if I take all this away, I have to make sure I need to take all away that I have been fantasizing, which is coming from the mind. But I have to make sure that I don't take away too much, because then I take something away that in actuality does exist. And then I would fall into nihilism. I negate something that is actually existing. So finding the middle way between what we need to let go of, but at the same time not letting go too much, that is finding the middle way. I don't know if that is more clear. So there are 4 Buddhist standard schools. There are 2 lower schools, which are called the Vaibhashika school and the Sautrantika school. And there are the 2 higher schools, which are the mind-only school and the middle way school. And they have all their own subdivisions. And I thought, if I'm going to give you all the words, you're going to be overwhelmed with new words and you might get confused, So what I'm going to talk about is just about one school, the Prasangika school, which is presenting the most subtle view within Buddhism, and that is seen as the final view, which means that is seen as that which is in accordance with reality as it is. All right. So we have these 3 layers of the self: the permanent, independent, unitary self, as posited by the Hindu schools or the Indian schools. I'm not sure if that's all Hinduism. And then there is the self-sufficient, substantially existent self, which is seen that we believe in that, but all the schools in Buddhism refute that. And then there is an inherently existent self, which is refuted by the Prasangika school. But what all the yogis say, no matter whether Hinduism, Buddhism, they all say the way things appear to ordinary beings is not how things exist in actuality. They all agree on that. They all say, when you start meditating, you start seeing a different reality. You start seeing that what we believe is real is not that real. They all agree on that. So we like to know what they are seeing. We like to know what they discover. So when I talk about, if we talk about ultimate truth from the Prasangika point of view, we talk about emptiness. And the meaning of emptiness is that it lacks inherent existence. Inherent existence means there is an independent self. There is an autonomous self, an objective self. Everything that exists lacks inherent existence, according to Prasangika. And for them, I'm going to give you a few other terms because I might use them. I might mix them sometimes, and these terms have all the same meaning. So the essence is that nothing exists inherently. Everything lacks inherent existence. But the same meaning is true existence. Nothing exists truly. Means the same. So if I say the meaning of inherent existence is that it has an independent existence. The meaning of true existence is that it exists in the way it appears. So for Prasangika, that refers to the same thing, the same quality. Something doesn't exist in the way it appears. It doesn't exist independently. And then what also has the same connotation is it doesn't exist from its own side. So having no independent existence means that the object doesn't exist from the side of the object as being that. So if I go back to the car, we somehow have this idea that car, that image that we have of car, that word car exists from the side of the car, as if that is living inside the object. And the Prasangika school says nothing exists from the side of the object. And later I will explain that more. And another term is, and I won't use that so much, existing by way of its own character. So things are empty of existing by way of their own character. Means that there are no characteristics coming from the side of the objects independent of our mind. So these are 4 terms that are used in the Prasangika for exactly the same thing, to indicate that things are empty. So when you study the other schools, they have different, they use these terms in different ways. And so some school, just to give you an example, forget it straight after I mention it. So some school says things do not exist truly, but they do exist inherently. So for them, true existence means something different than inherent existence. But in the Prasangika says these terms, inherent existence, true existence, existing by way of their own character, existing from their own side, these are terms that all indicate a level of ultimate existence. If things would exist truly, really, independent, there is some ultimate existence in that. It's not relative anymore. Relative means that everything comes about due to causes and conditions. Relative means everything comes about independence upon something else. So according to Prasangika, everything exists independent of something else. While the lower schools, they hold, no, there is some independent. No, they don't say independent, they say there is some true existence there. Or there is some inherent existence there. And for Prasangika, inherent means independent. True means independent. So we have to remember that, okay? So how do things exist? What is existing for us? And I'm going to look a little bit into the perceptual mind and the conceptual mind. There was a question about that. And I think it's good that we think about how that works before we go further into the two truths. Is everyone all right? Please ask questions if you can't follow, or if you want me to clarify something. So what is our reality? Our reality is everything that we perceive with our sense organs, with our sense consciousnesses, everything that we see, everything that we hear, feel with our body, smell, taste. That is our reality. Then we think about all that. And then we think about many other things, you know. This is our mental sense perception. That's also part of our reality. So we perceive things, and that looks like that is what is really existing in the world. But that is what we perceive with our sense perception. Sense perception is direct perception, which means that the object is outside my sense, my eye consciousness perceives it without anything being in between, no conception through which I see the object. So I see a cup, and without me having to think that is cup, I perceive cup. That is direct perception, that is non-conceptual. And when things appear to us through the senses, what we perceive is all the qualities of the object. We see the color, we see the shape, we see even the impermanence. All that appears to the mind, to the eyes. So the eyes get a lot of information when they see cup. So they say the perception is a collective engager. Direct perception engages with its object in a way that it perceives all the qualities of the object. Then we think about it. You know, I don't see the cup, and I'm thinking about the cup. That I do with my conceptual mind. Right? Because the object is not here, but I can think about it. So how does my conceptual mind work? So they say the conceptual mind is an eliminative engager. Instead of, like with the perceptual mind, everything appearing to the perception, in terms of the conceptual mind, when they think about cup, what the mind does, it eliminates everything except cup. Which means that all the qualities that are coming with cup, they are eliminated. The only thing that is left is cup. The cup doesn't even have a color. For the cup to have a color, I need to think green cup. Then green cup appears, but only green cup, not red cup, blue cup, any other color doesn't appear. Also not just cup. What appears to my mind is green cup. It is a very, it's like you undress the object from so many qualities, and the bare thing that you need in order to understand is left. Nothing else, no qualities. So the conceptual mind engages by eliminating everything else, everything that is not that. The conception of green cup eliminates everything which is not green cup. And the conception is permanent. And it sees only one thing. You know, so when I think about cup, I see only cup, the one thing, the whole. I do not see the parts of the cup. I do not see the qualities of the cup. I do not see the material of the cup. I just see cup. very different way of engaging. So how does the mind work? There is this object outside. Oh, let's start outside. It is also related to the objects inside us, you know, related to how we perceive the eye. But let's take the car. The car is there. The car is an object which is impermanent, which is made out of many parts, which is put together in a certain way, which has a certain color, which has a certain comfort, which has many, many, many qualities. And in dependence on that object, we have learned as a little child that that is a car. We call that a car, right? We were little, we said, Mommy, what is that? That's a car. And Mom repeated it as long as we needed, so that until we could say, oh, I know now, this is the car. So car is what we have learned to call it. Car is something that arises in our mind. There is a sound, car, which we call sound generality, the name given to an object. That name arises in our mind. We have learned that that is the name we give to that. Right? We're holding that information in our mind. There is nothing written on the car that says, I am a car. That's something we learned with our mind. True? And then in dependence on having seen all these cars, we in our conceptual mind, we create an image, what car means. And we create an image that fits all the cars. My car. My car is different than car. Red car is different than car. It's different than my car. So for each label, whether that is my car, or whether that is car, or red car, each image is different. So when I think my car, there is an image arising in my mind. And in my mind, that image represents that thing that is waiting there outside, the car outside. And we think, when I think of my car, I think of that thing outside. But the way my car appears to my conceptual mind, it is completely stripped of everything except that one essence that I need in order to know it's my car. Well, in actuality, that object outside has, when I see that, it has so many qualities that appear to my sense consciousness, to my eye consciousness. So many qualities that I cannot see with my conceptual mind. But then what I do is that conception that I have in my mind, I project that onto the car. And somehow I believe that that projection is living out there. That the image that I have of my car, if that is actually coming from the car itself. And so when I do that, the qualities of my conceptual mind, seeing things as permanent, seeing things as unitary, you know, I see only my car is the one object. I project that onto an object which qualities are being impermanent and having many parts. In my mind, car appears as having nothing to do with anything else. It's just car. My car appears as an object stripped of everything else. as if it is independent of anything else. So when I project that onto the object, it appears like car is independent. So the more we project what we believe in our conceptual mind, what we have learned in our conceptual mind, whether that is in an image or in a name, we project that onto objects. And then when we believe that our projection actually lives in the object, is coming from the object, then we make objects more permanent, more unitary, more independent than they exist in actuality. The quality that we have in our conceptual mind is we project that as coming from the object outside. And so because the conceptual mind and the perceptual mind engage so different with the object, and we mix them up. And while doing that, we cannot see anymore how things exist in actuality. We cannot see that car is that object that is driving me to and from with a house, which is merely imputed by my mind. I impute that by my mind. So the more we are living in our conceptual mind, the less we have contact with that reality out there, that impermanent, dependent reality. We believe it exists like it is in our mind. And so this is how we get more and more disconnected from reality. So seeing things conceptually. So the conceptual mind does the labeling, that's right. So there are two types of conception. We have what we call the sound generality, which is the name given. That's coming from the mind, right? We hear that, we learn that, and we need to remember that. Even when we read it, it comes from our mind. And then there is the meaning generality, and that is the image that we have in the mind. So to know an object means that you know the sound generality and you know the meaning generality. You have seen the object and then you know the name of the object. Then you have a complete idea of a thing. But that one thing, car, if car would exist inherently in the object there where I see car, I should be able to find it when I start looking for it. So when I start looking within the parts of car, I should be able to find a car. And we can strip the whole car and we will not be able to find something that we can say, that is the car. That is it, right? If something exists independently, inherently in the car, as the car, if that is the car, I should be able to find it. And so when I look in the parts of the car, I cannot find any car. I cannot find car. I cannot point anything out to say that's car. Car is an image that we have in the mind that we project onto that object that we call car. And then it appears back to us as if it is coming from the side of the object. Do you get that? Are there some implications of seeing things conceptually? So the more that I think the problem is not that we conceptualize. The problem is not that we have names for everything. And the problem is not that the mind has images for everything. That is just how the mind works. The problem is that what we believe is that what is actually coming from the mind is coming from outside, is not coming from the mind, is existing independently, is existing truly. That's the problem. What we think, sometimes we think the car in my mind is exactly the same car as outside. This is my car, that is my car. And we mix them. We mix the object that appears to the conceptual mind and the object that appears to the sense perception, to the eye perception. We mix them and we think they are the same. And it is very important that we see they are totally different. Is it clear? How are you with all that? So when we start thinking about it, we start thinking, oh, you know, that my thinking is wrong. I should stop my thinking because my thinking is not really true. Well, you know, then you negate too much. That's too much. We can use our thinking. Our thinking is not inherently wrong. Our thinking can be very useful if we use it in order to understand reality, for instance. If we use it in order to reflect on our mind. We need that conceptual mind. Without a conceptual mind, we become totally stupid. You know, it is a quality that we have, but whether it is a quality or a burden depends on how we use it. So don't say we shouldn't think about it anymore. Also, don't think, oh, that's not really a car out there. This is just coming from my mind. Well, car is the combination of what is out there and what is coming from my mind. So I can still call that a car. There's nothing wrong with that. We agreed on that. So we accept the reality as we have agreed upon. You know, don't say to anyone, you know, when they crash their car, oh, don't worry, it's empty anyway. It's still a car. It's still, you know, still feelings arise and depends upon crashing your car. Don't throw, you know, everything into emptiness. It is almost like, oh, it doesn't exist at all. It is empty. It doesn't matter. So we have to find that balance. You know, conventional reality exists, and we can name everything the way we do it. Our problem is that we believe that the naming that comes from our mind and the images that come from our mind, we believe that they are coming from the side of the object. We believe they are really that. That's the problem, and especially with the eye, you know, but we'll maybe go to that later. So we have repeat with an example. Conceptual mind. So the conceptual mind has two ways of remembering things, of bringing things to mind. One is with the name. We hear the sound. You know, if somebody says to you, oh, I saw Jack yesterday, then if you know Jack, the image of Jack, on hearing the sound Jack, the image of Jack will also come to your mind. So we have a sound and we have a meaning generality, an image. If you do not know Jack, but you heard of Jack, then when somebody says, I saw Jack yesterday, you think, oh, I have heard of Jack, but I do not know Jack, but I know the sound Jack, and I know that it refers to a certain person, but I do not have myself an image. And then one day you meet Jack and they say, this is Jack. And then, oh, now I know who you are. Next time, even when Jack is not present, I can call to mind an image of Jack together with the name Jack, and I know this is Jack. Right? Same if we go somewhere to a place that we have never been. We do not know the name of the place, but we have an image of the place, right? And then maybe at a certain point we say, how does this call this place? You know, oh, this place is called Brisbane. Oh, now I know how Brisbane looks like. So knowing something, the meaning generality and the sound generality can be enough. But if we have both, we have more understanding of the object. Okay, got it. So nothing wrong with organizing our mind conceptually, right? Because if everything that exists outside us exists out of many parts, arises independent of many causes and conditions, it's going to be very difficult to communicate with each other if we would label all these parts, right? So we collect everything into singular things. So my iPad exists out of many parts, but for me, I make it into one thing, an iPad, for convenience, for communication, right? But iPad is something that is coming from my mind, that I have called, or somebody else has called, that whole collection of parts into one thing, in a unitary thing. And so the conceptual mind thinks into unitary things, then projects that onto something that exists out of many parts. Nothing wrong with that. But then I believe that a unitary thing, which is independent and permanent, lives in my iPad. That is my iPad. I forget that it's just a name, just a concept. All right. That's a little bit how we do. If you don't get it totally, don't worry, you know, we'll come back to that. And I think when we talk about conventional truth and ultimate truth, you will get more understanding about this. Let me see where we are. So we have a belief that something exists from the side of the object. A belief holding something to exist like that is coming from a conception, and that is what we call the conception of inherent existence. We believe that the thing exists inherently within the object. That the thing that we impute lives inherently within the object. That conception, that belief, is what causes afflictive obscurations. You know, all our attachment, all our aversion, the pride, the jealousy, all the disturbing thinking arises in dependence upon the belief, the conception of inherent existence. And then we also have the appearance, right? Because we are not aware that we project something onto the object and it comes back. It happens like that. We don't see it happening. It happens so fast. 1 second. Much shorter than 1 second. 1 moment. So due to that, we have and also due to the habituation of projecting onto inherent existence onto objects and it appearing back to us. Due to that, we have the appearance that things exist inherently. So this appearance is even if we would remove all the beliefs that we have in inherent existence, and with that we would remove all our afflictions, the afflictive obscurations. We remove all the conceptions of believing into that things are coming from the side of the object. We still have the imprints that give us the appearance that things are existing from the side of the object. And so they do not obstruct our freedom from the delusions. For that, we only have to remove our belief. But they obstruct us becoming fully enlightened. So in Buddhism, we have two types of obscurations: the afflictive obscurations and the obscurations to knowledge. Maybe you have heard of that. The afflictive obscurations are also sometimes called the obscurations to liberation. The afflictive obscurations is that what prevents us from being liberated from samsara, from being liberated from cyclic existence, from being liberated from all the disturbing emotions, from being liberated from the self-grasping mind. These are afflictive obscurations. The obscurations to knowledge are also called the obscurations to omniscience, or the obscurations to seeing the two truths simultaneously. The obscurations to omniscience are the appearances of true existence, or the appearances of inherent existence. So although the appearances are there, once we are liberated, we are not grasping anymore, but I still cannot see how things exist in actuality. And so we will go through today how we generate a mind that can see, first of all, the ultimate reality as it is, and then how we can get to the realization where we can see both ultimate and conventional reality at the same time, removing all the obscurations. So there, in relation to true existence, I just want you to remember now there are two things. One is our belief, which is connected to the conception of true existence. And one is the appearance of true existence, which is not a conception. The appearance is a leftover from having had the conceptions for such a long time. So we have two types of obscurations. One is called the afflictive obscurations, and these are the conception of true existence, or the conception of inherent existence. It is we believing that how we see things, that they exist in actuality. And then we have also the appearance of true existence. Things appear to us as inherently existent. And so the appearance and the conception are related to different obscurations. The conception of true existence is connected to the afflictive, is called an afflictive obscuration. Our belief in true existence makes our mind afflicted. It's the cause for all the delusions to arise. Because the main conception of true existence that we have is the belief in the I, the self, exists, truly exists inherently. And independence on that, all disturbing emotions arise. So I can counteract that belief when I can see that that self doesn't exist the way it appears. When I realize that will, my wisdom will have the power to eliminate all the conceptions, and with that, all the disturbing emotions of true existence. But then there is something else. There is the appearance of true existence. And things appear as if they exist from the side of the object. And even if I know it is not true, it still appears to me because I have been habituating my mind for many eons like that. And so these are called the obscurations to omniscience. And so if I want to become enlightened, not just liberated from the disturbing emotions, not just liberated from samsara, but I want to become enlightened, then I also have to eliminate all the appearances of true existence. And do that with the same realization of emptiness, but more powerful. But I'll talk about that this afternoon. I want to say a little bit about, I'll make a start with that, with ultimate truth and conventional truth, what it means, what the word means. So I hope that you know now we are living in the conventional truth. The conventional truth is our truth. That is our domain. The yogi is investigating something else. The yogi is investigating the ultimate truth. So the reality that they discover is in a different domain than reality that we are perceiving with our awareness at the moment. Right? Totally different domain. And I hope you can see that. Same objects, but different domain. So what does it mean when we talk about ultimate truth? So in Tibetan, ultimate truth is Dondam Dampa. And Dondam, the ultimate, means literally sublime object. And so it refers to the object of what we call, and this is already, I will explain the terms, the superior's exalted wisdom and meditative equipoise. So sublime wisdom, sublime object means emptiness, means seeing the nature of reality. Who sees the nature of reality? The person who realizes emptiness. So when you realize emptiness directly, you become, sometimes we say, a noble being, or an Arya being, or a superior. You have seen a level of reality, you have seen the ultimate nature of reality, which is not seen by ordinary beings, and therefore you are called a superior. Not because you're more, but because you have seen a truth that is obscure for ordinary beings. And so when do you see the truth? You see the truth when you are a meditative equipoise. Meditative equipoise is a state in which your mind has a union, a coming together of calm abiding, being able to focus single-pointedly on one object for as long as you want. And special insight being able to analyze the object from all sides with reasoning. So you have a mind that is single-pointedly focused and at the same time is analyzing the nature of reality. They are in union and they realize the nature of reality directly. They see it without any conception. They see it directly without any meaning generality. They see it. They see, once you see that, they say you see the ultimate truth. You see the ultimate. What you see in that moment is the sublime object, is the ultimate object. And so that is what is ultimate referring to the object. There is nothing behind that. There is nothing else to be realized. That's all that you can realize. You have realized the ultimate. And then truth or Dhamma refers to the fact that what is realized by the superior is the truth. The truth in the sense that it exists the way it appears. When you see the truth, when you see the ultimate truth, you know this is how things exist in actuality. This is the truth. I see things the way they appear. The way things appear to me, that's how they exist. It is true. That's ultimate reality. So conventional reality is our reality. What is true for us, right? So the literally meaning of conventional truth is all concealing or thoroughly obscuring. Conventionally means concealed. So our truth is concealed. The concealer is the ignorance. That is the conception of true existence. The concealer is what prevents us from seeing reality. So conventional reality, conventional is the meaning is that it is obscure. We cannot see. It obscures us actually from seeing what exists in actuality. And then in terms of conventional truth, truth refers to what we see is true for the concealer, true for the conception of true existence. True. So then when you start studying emptiness, you might think, oh, but for me, it's all not so true anymore. So I'm talking about ordinary sentient beings who are not interested in studying the nature of reality. For them, everything is true. So although things appear for us to be true, in actuality, they are not true. In actuality, they are false. Because in actuality, things do not exist in the way they appear. The mode of abidance and the mode of appearance, how things appear to us and how they abide, how they exist in actuality, they're not concordant. And so therefore it is called truth for a concealer. What we see, we are obscured from seeing how things exist in actuality. So after lunch, I will talk about how we realize the truth. You know, how does that look like when we are on the path? How can we realize the truth? And then from there we go into how things exist within single objects. Okay, because it's lunchtime now. So I would like you to, you can discuss during lunch, and if there are things you can hear, sometimes it's not so easy to maybe repeat what you have heard, but maybe you come up with the same questions, or maybe because you hear somebody say something, things suddenly become, you thought you understood it and suddenly you don't anymore. Just bring them with you in the next session. Okay. And I would also like you to think about, these are not such easy topics to meditate upon. So I have not planned any meditation, but I can make time for meditation if you feel that you need to rest a little bit with the information that you have all heard, right? And I'm very happy to do that. For instance, at the end of next session, that we take 15 or 20 minutes meditation before you have a break. But it can also be that you say, no, I'm fine hearing all this information and I will rest at my break. See how you go, because thinking about this material, it can really start hurting in your brain when you do it a lot. And so we want to make sure that you are able to follow the whole weekend and that you come out of it in a good sense, not that you think, oh my gosh, that was too much. All right. So I'd like to hear from you. Anita would like a meditation. Okay. Please tell me, give me your feedback when we come back at 1 o'clock. All right. Thank you very much. I wish you a very good lunch, and I'm going to ask Judy to do the prayers for the lunchtime, and I'll see you at 1 o'clock. All right. And I think, John, I'm going to send you a new link, right? I start again the session at I'll start 10 minutes before the session starts. I'll send you the link for the live stream. Okay. See you at 1.